It's time to strap in and get ready for the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Dan and Dirk are live in the studio today, ready to hear from you at 402-573-0590.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing. What better thing could you do with good old mama today than take her over to 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs and do a little bit of fast-paced, white-knuckle racing at Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
And you can set the big vase of flowers at the finish line.
There you go. Happy Mother's Day to everybody, and a happy day to you. Post-race day. What a day last night, at or night, I guess would be the proper term, at Kansas Speedway.
What a weekend at Kansas Speedway. We got our steps in.
We got spoiled with the weather. I was joking with some of the other actual media members. We're kind of fake part-timers, if you want to even call it that. And I said the years that we've cooked out here, we've frozen out here, and we've soaked out here, we deserved this.
Weather was fantastic. A little breezy at times, but very nice weather for 2 nights.
We got a heck of a show lined up for you today. We will recap the racing action last night and everything that we saw and what we thought. In turn number 2, we'll sit down with Jon Wood, third-generation Wood brother for the Wood Brothers Racing Organization. Talked about Jon. You hooked us up with that interview and talked to Jon about his contribution to the team, to the sport. He's been a driver. Now he's a front office man, trying to innovate the way that the Wood Brothers do things over there. So we'll talk to him, and we'll also talk to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. about his win, his thoughts on the last week, and kind of his career, and a couple of our basic questions. In turn number 3, Stan Cisar is going to join us. He's got a lot of racing to recap. Friday night at I-80, Saturday night at Eagle. We're also going to try to touch briefly on the results at Farley for that big $50,000 to win A-Mod race, and any other things that Stan's got to talk about. We're also going to try to get a little bit of thoughts from Stan, because he used to be a drag racer, and he's since sold that car, and now he's a circle track racer. But what an appropriate guy to help us give away the NHRA Kansas Nationals tickets coming up in turn number 4. So that's the show for today. And again, turn number 1 brought to you by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Get information on getting over to Joe's today at joeskarting.com, karting with a K. First off, Dirk, we got down here Friday morning. Again, absolutely beautiful day, and we got to walk around and experience a lot of stuff. There was a little bit of an issue on Friday afternoon with a couple of cars getting through pre-tech inspection, and it was well noted in the media. 10 drivers did, or was it 11? I think it was 11.
There were 11 cars that could not pass the laser inspection station in pre-qualifying tech. There was a 12th car that didn't get a chance to qualify, and that was the 95 of McDowell, who had the engine failure during practice, and they couldn't get everything switched over in time to qualify. So 12 cars going to the back with some hitters. Mm-hmm. I mean, 3 of the 4 Hendricks cars, Kane, Dale Jr., and Jimmy Johnson. Clint Boyer was in there. Clint was very upset and very vocal. You know, we made a huge change on our car, and we went back, and they said it was exactly the same. And he goes, it can't be. It's got to be better. It's got to be worse.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we went the wrong way on the change, but it can't be the same.
The guys that started from the back included Jimmy Johnson, Clint Boyer, Casey Kane, Eric Jones, Dale Earnhardt Jr., David Reagan, again, we noted Michael McDowell because of an engine change, Landon Castle, Reed Sorensen, Corey LaJoie, Timmy Hill, and Carl Long. So those are the guys that had to start from the back, and we all know the story of Carl Long, which we'll try to get into here in a little bit. But I want to get back to this. It's kind of just hard to describe over the radio, but we ended up running into Jack Roush, which I actually give him incredible credit, because he was out and about pretty much all pre-race on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, where most owners were, you know, they get tired of the constant questions and the pictures and the autographs, and so they kind of hang out in their haulers or they're doing stuff with their team. Jack was right there. He was sitting at the end of the hauler, and he was taking pictures. He was signing stuff. He was talking to people. And we ended up talking to him about what was going on with these 10, 11 cars that didn't get through tech inspection. And the laser system that NASCAR has been championing says this is to a T. It's down to the thousandths of a meter, and it's quicker. It's more reliable. Turns out the owners and the teams don't agree with the whole more reliable part. And again, to try to explain it over the radio would be incredibly difficult, but the end result is that, like you said, with Clint Boyer's statement, so they went through inspection and put these lasers on the tire mounts, or on the tires, and read the measurements, and they were off by a certain amount. And so they went back to their garage and took these measurement devices off, went back to their garage, made adjustments that should have swung them in the other direction, came back through inspection, and they failed by the exact same amount. And so the team's argument to NASCAR is, if this system is so perfect, why are we going through and making adjustments and failing by the same amount?
Well, the biggest thing is, like I was trying to show you, the way these things mount to the wheel of the car. I mean, the thing kind of looks like an ugly hubcap, and
It's just like a sheet of metal that goes over the cover of it's just like a mud cover on a dirt track. If that helps explain it, that's exactly what it looks like. And then it's got a little plumb bob that hangs from the center. But
when they mount them, the mounting can vary several thousandths of an inch every time it mounts, which makes all the readouts different. Mm-hmm. It's like the 3 set screws is what holds this thing on. It's not mounted to something solid and something constant like the center line of the axle or anything like that. So the laser, the thing that it's reading off of for some of these measurements, can actually move. Mm-hmm. When they take it off and they work on the car and then they put the thing back on. And I mean, it can be something different from car to car depending on the brand of wheel, because they don't all run the same wheel. And Jack, that was one of his statements. Is if you got different wheels from, car A to car B, obviously within one team, all the Roush cars run the same wheel, all the Hendrick cars run the same wheel. And you mean
rim?
Right, the wheel. Rim, wheel.
Not the Goodyear wheel, but the actual rim.
No, the Goodyear's a tire.
Right, I know. But I'm making sure we're being very clear about what we're talking about. It mounts to the inside of the rim.
The wheel. It's called a wheel, not a rim. Rim's a slang term. But, yeah, the metal part.
Okay. And that's the variant. That could be the variable, is that we know how much these wheels, rims cycle with heat when they go to different tracks, and they're not brand new ones every time they come to a racetrack. So that's where the teams are arguing back to NASCAR and saying, your system may be perfect, but the process or the laser system could be perfect, but the process is flawed, and we need to get that figured out, because we're the ones that are paying the penalty, not NASCAR, and not the tech inspection.
I was talking to one of the inspectors, one of my old buddies from the series when I was doing this, and he told me, he goes, yeah, they're upset now. He goes, wait till next year when they're adding more stuff to that laser station. And I said, are you kidding me? I said, these guys can't master what you got. And I said, if you're going to add more to it, I said, that's just ridiculous. Sorry.
So this is kind of the nice part about us actually coming down to the track, because we'd have never known that had we not been able to come down to Kansas Speedway and actually kind of walk around and have these conversations with people. So this is kind of the nice thing about us. The once or twice a year we're able to get with the Cup Series, and then a couple of times the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series over at Iowa Speedway. So that's kind of the nice thing, because we've been hearing all these tech inspection problems, these pre-qualifying inspection problems, these post-race inspection problems, and you only hear NASCAR's statement side of it. And so being the sanctioning body, it's very easy to get a painted picture of, well, these teams are always just trying to push the envelope. Well, in this case, I think the teams are absolutely right. If Jack Roush is correct and the variable is the wheel, not the system, then there is a flaw in the entire process that needs to be addressed and needs to be repaired. And I feel confident that NASCAR is willing to listen to this if this continues to be a problem, that the Owners Association, the Drivers Association that communicates with NASCAR, they'll listen. It may take time, a little longer time, but not near as long as it used to.
Well, this is something, when I first saw the way these things mounted a couple of years ago, I said it was going to end up being an issue, and it was nice to hear somebody like Jack, who's got some pull in the garage, agreeing with me. But let's go back to square one. There were 29 cars that passed.
True. That's always the part of it I don't think about.
So 2/3 of them got it right, and or 3/4 of them got it right, and then you had your group, and it's the same group.
Yeah.
Out of California, Texas, Jimmy Johnson didn't get to qualify at all these tracks, but, the plus side to not qualifying is you get to start the race on brand new tires. Jimmy was like 12th when they made their first pit stop. And he might not have qualified that far.
He was screaming through the field. It was crazy. But it was fun for me, and I was talking about it with Chad Robin. I think I mentioned it to you a couple of times. I said, well, the good news for us fans is that a lot of really good drivers are starting from the back, and it's going to be an interesting first stage of racing because these guys are going to be moving through the field like their pants are on fire because they need to get up to the front and get as many stage points by the end of that first 80 laps. The stage one ended up finishing with Kyle Busch getting the stage one win, Martin Truex Jr., then Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski. Jimmy Johnson ended up finishing sixth? I'm seeing here, seventh in the stage one. Denny Hamlin, Casey Kane, and then Kurt Busch. That was your top 10 finishers in stage
Casey
number
Kane
one.
Was another one that came from 33rd starting position or something like that, and he got stage 1 point. So he
31.
came through the field.
Yep, 31st. Very good racing. Before we get into the full recap, I want to kind of talk to you about it. I know you were down on pit road picking up lug nuts and kind of shooting videos, so you didn't get to see a lot of the actual. Well, maybe you did get to see some of the actual racing, but what was your thoughts?
A couple different grooves.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to race. The top groove was very fast at the beginning, and it kind of worked its way down. And I think that probably had to do with the night cooling off and the track cooling off.
Mm-hmm.
But both races we saw a ton of yellows.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that truck race got really bad. And what did we end up with last night? 15, I think, or 16?
You know what? I didn't even keep. I know we broke the record for the Truck Series race for the most cautions in a Kansas race, and I didn't hear the final caution count for the Cup race. Oh, 15. You're right.
But
15 for 61 total laps.
But
and then
I mean,
a red flag for I think 27 minutes.
27 minutes, yeah. But like Eric Jones caused 2 cautions last night, just spinning on his own.
Mm-hmm.
There were several of those in the trucks. The guys kept their cars off the wall and stuff and didn't have a bunch of damage. But they're driving by themselves and losing it on this track,
We saw it with Kyle Busch a couple of years ago. He could not figure out turn 2 or turn 4.
We saw it many years with Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's going on inside the car a lot of the times. Ryan Blaney several times coming off a 2 last night got loose, and ended up getting blown by Ryan Truex both times, or not Ryan Truex, but Martin Truex, and who again he's almost got Kansas mastered. He's run very well down here, but finally finished it off last night with the win.
It looked for a moment there that the pit crew was going to get in the way of Martin Truex Jr. winning a race, or something was going to happen, because there were little things that popped up that kept him from coming out first on pit road or even front row on pit road. Blaney had the pole, so he had the best pit box out there, and he was able to pick up a couple of spots on pit lane a couple of times and maintain or retake the lead on pit road. And then it was all about the restart and getting that run and getting the clean air for a little while. But again, Martin Truex Jr. had such a fast car in the middle to the end of a run that after probably 10, 15 laps, he was a rocket.
Yeah, but they made some adjustments there because, when they had the caution with 22 laps to go, and we all thought when Ryan got out first, he was a rocket for those 20 laps, and he had a great short run car, but he didn't get the lead that time. And that was the first time it had happened. Martin beat him to the point and walked away.
Yeah, he had a terrible restart that time. But your results from Kansas: Martin Truex Jr. Got the win, finally got the win, 57 points on the day, and 5 playoff bonus points. Then Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Busch finish out your top 5. Larson, Suarez, McMurray, Boyer, and Bain finish out your top 10. Scary moment for a while there. Looked like Danica Patrick was going to have a good run. She was running in the top 10 with about 60, I think there were 67 laps to go. It was right at about lap 200.
Yeah, it was right around 200.
And very freaky moment. It looked like you could see the replay. Obviously something broke on Joey Logano's car, because very rarely do you see a car cut to the inside the way it did. If a tire blows, it'll cut to the outside.
Well, it depends which tire blows. If the left front tire blows, it'll cut left.
A lot of people were saying brake rotor because early in the night, Joey was complaining that he had soft brakes. We have dealing with soft brakes. So a lot of people were blaming it on a brake rotor. Either way, Danica was to his inside, just slightly in front of him. Joey dives to the inside. And again, it looked so
Car
violent.
went left.
It looked so violent that it couldn't have been anything other than a mechanical issue. Catches the right rear of Danica. She goes flying up into the wall. He goes flying into the wall. They're both collected. I think fluid got dumped on the track. Media members and people were saying there was parts and debris that stopped Aric Almirola from being able to turn. Again, I think it was liquid because he was in a dirt track slide for 300, 400 feet before he made contact with Danica and Joey. Big fiery flame. Aric comes to a stop, and reports on it on the internet from J-Ski are that before he even came to a stop, he cringed on the radio and said, "Oh my back. Oh my, does that hurt?" And then the car came to a stop, so that he dropped the window net to let everybody know he wasn't in any serious, immediate danger. Safety officials got there, and then they threw out the red flag, and they cut him out of the car, which is always a scary moment, but they took their time. I think it was about a 20-minute red flag, cleaned up the track, and just safely removed him. And it was very gingerly to get him out of that car, which I applaud. I think that's absolutely the way to do it.
Well, yeah, they're going to err on the side of caution, and obviously a back injury can be very serious. It's usually not life-threatening, but, can definitely lead to paralysis or something like that. So they're going to take care of these guys. But he did make the mistake of dropping that window net. Everybody thought he was fine because that's the signal. You dropped the window net.
Well, but he immediately radioed to the team that he was hurt, which they then relayed it to NASCAR. And, I mean, there wasn't like he sat in that car without any help for a while.
Oh, no, he wasn't.
They were on him pretty quickly.
They were going to be on him immediately, and the first thing they do is go to the driver's window and ask him, "Are you okay?" Because he had the window net down. But he probably, just like normal, he unlatched the window net and was done doing his belts and went to move and was like, uh-oh, something's wrong.
Well, the way as high as his car got, I mean, you're not surprised that he has any kind of back issues. And again, they take their time because you could do way more damage extracting him from the car.
Absolutely.
If you do it improperly than the actual accident itself. So at last report, and by the way, the entire time they kept saying Aric is awake, he's alert, he is responding to safety workers. He's talking with them. They're just getting him out of the car. He remained awake and alert for most of the night. Last update I got was about 1 o'clock this morning that, again, he was awake and alert, and he was just being held at a Kansas City hospital for observation to make sure he was okay. And so we'll get reports via our Facebook in the next couple of days. Shoot, we've gone 18 minutes in turn number 1. We got to take a break. We will come back in turn number 2. We'll play Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Jon Wood. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Hey, race fans, after 50 years of being America's home track, Eagle Raceway is firing things up for the 2017 racing season. Bring the family out this Saturday for the Memorial Day Explodaganza and Driver Appreciation Night presented by Gray Clips. Contact your favorite Eagle Raceway driver for free tickets. All the IMCA action kicks off with gates opening at 5:30 and the green flag drops at 6:30. For more information, check out EagleRaceway.com. Eagle Raceway, just east of Lincoln on Highway 34 in Eagle, Nebraska.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
Dan and Dirk are rolling into turn 2 with a little attitude on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 2, and we got the luxury of sitting down with last week's race winner at Talladega, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and third generation Wood brother, Jon Wood. There's so much hair on my microphone. I'm sorry for all the noise if it's causing you fans back at home. But anyways, third generation driver Jon Wood. Dirk, you hooked us up with Jon, and he started out driving trucks and has driven for a couple of organizations and then transitioned into the front office. So we sat down and kind of talked about his role and his responsibility, and we started things off by by asking Jon to talk about his contribution to the Wood brothers.
Yeah, so my grandpa started the team in 1950 or whatever it was, and I mean I just grew up around it, and that's just really if you whenever and I think to one extent that's kind of a disadvantage, and it's kind of hard to explain, but when you grow up around something, it doesn't you don't really appreciate it when you're young like you probably should, because it's what you always knew. And for me to walk past a driver when I was 5 years old or whatever would probably be no different than, say, an NFL player's kid to grow up in a stadium. It's just normal. And I mean, there's advantages to that, but there's disadvantages too. And so yeah, I just grew up around it.
At what point did you start realizing what you were a part of?
I started, again, when I was in elementary school, like that age, I did regular kid sports, football, baseball, basketball, all that jazz. I mean, I was pretty involved in it, so racing wasn't really something that I had much of an interest in. No rhyme or reason to it, but my dad didn't really force it on me. He didn't force it on me at all. And it was just one of those things where he knew all along he would give me that option if I so chose, but he wasn't going to promote it or endorse it.
So how old were you when you drove your first time, whether it be a go-kart, late model, or how'd you get started and when?
Competitively, I think I was about 12 or 13. So I was late to the scene compared to a lot of people that I raced with early on. I mean, they had been doing it since early childhood, and again, my dad didn't really promote it, so I was late to the party, but it didn't really seem to be a disadvantage. I caught on fairly quick, and I started out like anybody else, go-karts, and then a little small car. It was an Allison Legacy Series car. It's kind of like a Legends car. And then late models and this, that, and the other thing.
What was the change for you? Why all of a sudden did you go from the stick and ball sports and your dad not really pushing it on you to all of a sudden now you are driving?
I don't really know what the changing moment was. I don't really remember. There was a kid it was a family friend, and like a kid I didn't really know, but my parents knew his parents, and they raced go-karts. And one day they had me go race one of his spare karts, and I think that's when it all started. It was just kind of a spur of the moment, hey, let's go do this, and that's what kind of kicked it off.
Now, I know when I was official back in the truck series, I know you won a couple truck races. You were driving for Jack Roush back when Carl was driving the 99 and you were driving the 50. And I know you tried some other stuff after that. When did you kind of transition into the front office?
When our team really started to struggle. That would have been about the time period. And the way that all that went down, so I was tentatively slated to drive the 21 for like half a season in 2006 or 7, I believe it was. And that was Kenny Schrader was driving the other races. We started missing races, and we're out. At the time, they had the top 35 rule, where if you were outside the top 35, you weren't guaranteed a spot or whatever it was. So we were missing races, both of us. And I had the bright idea to have a past champion come in, and the only way we were going to make races is to have a past champion. What probably wouldn't have mattered who drove it. And so with Bill Elliott having the access to a provisional, the thinking there was he could come and drive it some and get us back where we're back in the top 35, guaranteed in, and then we can get back to a normal routine. So he comes in and starts driving, but we never really improved on position. And he sort of, from just an occasional circumstance or whatever you call it, position where he was just going to run a couple races, it turned into we need you again, we need you again, we need you again, and then before you knew it, he's running a whole season. And then we lost the Air Force sponsorship. It was a series of downturns, and they ended up needing Bill full time. We lost the truck series team. Both of those teams closed, and I wasn't going to continue doing nothing. So the sensible thing to do was to start relearning the business side instead of the driving side, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So what exactly are your duties with the team currently?
My title would be Director of Business Development and Merchandising. I handle all the merchandising for the team, and then any kind of sponsorship acquisition and things of that nature. But it's really I don't know how to explain it. It's a family business, but we all kind of share the duties and we all do everything. My dad and his brother Lynn. Oftentimes it'll be the three of us going to the owners' meetings and whatever scenario you want to think of. But I'm just kind of learning the business side of it from them and seeing where that goes.
You guys, for the last several years, have been a part-time team, helping out younger drivers, and now within the last 2 years, putting Ryan Blaney in the car full-time. How exciting is it for you to help be a part of bringing Wood Brothers back to that dominant force again?
I think that the part-time schedule thing has been more of a hindrance than what we really ever thought it would be. From one aspect, people can think that it's an opportunity to have more time to prepare your cars and everybody be a little bit more prepared. But what happens is when you're not here every weekend, you sort of get out of the routine. The pit crew gets rusty. The driver isn't, seeing all these different tracks. He isn't getting a lot of seat time, I guess would be the word. And it's just a disadvantage. And I didn't really realize it until we did go back full time at what a box we had put ourselves in by being that way.
You guys have and I guess I go back to the previous question, you guys have really kind of started leading the charge as opposed to being a part of the Ford organization. You guys are now at the forefront of the Ford organization, working hand in hand with Penske and the Ford teams. That's got to be. Is that an overstatement, or is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. I mean, we're very lucky in the layout of the way our team works, where we do have that alliance with Team Penske. I mean, those guys are just seeing the difference from the way we had our Roush affiliation to the Penske affiliation, just the difference in the cars. It's just unbelievable. I can't really state it enough. But that's been the biggest advantage to our organization is that partnership.
We talked a lot about parity in the sport, and that talks about with every sport, but it seems like the team alliances have really brought the parity back together to where there's not such a big difference between the front runners, the mid-pack, and the back runners, and it allows an opportunity for teams like you guys to return back to the front of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think a lot of our successes lately have been Ryan getting as much seat time as possible. I firmly believe if we were still at a part-time schedule, not changing anything, if we still had Ryan, we still had the exact same pit crew, the same crew chief, everything, but we're only running 12 races a year, I don't think he'd be anywhere close to where he is right now. I think last year was a building year for him, and everybody makes mistakes, and I mean, he made some, but he's learned from those mistakes, and he's not repeating them. And now, instead of just having fast cars, we're having fast cars and finishes to go along with it.
Now, I know Ryan's a very talented driver and obviously up and coming, got a lot of pedigree. Winning the pole here at Kansas, how soon do you see him with his first win, and how big a party is that going to be?
I've tried to downplay this pole as much as possible, just because. I mean, you obviously you're excited about it. It's the third time I've experienced a pole. We'll put it that way in my entire life. I mean, I've had poles myself, but this team, I'm saying, I think this is their third since I've been alive. So I mean, it's a big deal, but you don't want to toot your horn too much and take too much praise, because that's just one single lap. I mean, that proves the cars are fast, and that proves that Ryan knows what he's doing, but there's still a ways to go. And if you look at the path that, say, Kyle Larson took, so he had to crawl before he could walk, and look at how long in between his first pole. I don't even know when it was, but I just remember watching him and thinking, okay, now he's running well enough where he's going to win one, but he's going to have to lose one first. And I've always said that you got to lose one before you can win one. And what that means is you've got to be in position. You've got to put yourself in a position to win a race before you can. I mean, there are guys that luck up and win them here and there, but to earn a win, it takes time. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, and I'm getting long-winded, is that pole is one thing, but the race tonight is something totally different.
We always ask people when we interview them, especially drivers, which that's not where your forte is right now, but still, you're in the sport. If you could change one thing about the sport, if you could be God of racing for a day, what would that one change be?
And I mean, this is probably not a very popular answer, but I think this sport is missing personality. I think it's gotten to, and it's by nature the way this has happened. It had no other recourse, but I think it's too dependent on too much money, and because of that, guys are scared to really show their personalities, fight, do the things that made the sport what it was to start with. And it's sort of a paradox in how do you fix that? You can't take the money away to get the drivers' personalities back, but it's kind of you can't fix it. It just is what it is.
We talked to Travis Quapple last year at Newton Speedway in Iowa, and his thing was the same thing. A lot of these younger drivers come in with a big checkbook, and now they're racing cars, when there's a lot of talented drivers that don't have a ride because they don't have a checkbook.
Yeah, and I mean the storylines that go along with that. I mean, how interesting is it for a 19-year-old kid to show up his dad's in real estate, whatever, and I mean it's just not a fun story to hear. The stories you want to hear are the ones where the guy is roping cows for a living and whatever, picking up trash, and those guys are becoming more few and far between because it costs so much to get in this sport to start with. It's a little different than professional stick and ball sports where you're given the opportunity in school whether you've got money or not. This is a little different. It takes money to even get here to begin with.
And that was Jon Wood, third-generation Wood brother for the Wood Brothers Racing, and they got so close to having a heck of a party last night. Again, Ryan Blaney had one of the fastest cars, had the courtesy or had the advantage of the best stall on pit road, took advantage of it several times, but that's not degrading his kind of car. He drove an amazing race.
If he could have got that lead on that restart there with 19 to go or whatever it was, he would have had a very good chance to run the ways because he had a great short run car. But, it just didn't work out. I think they're maybe a lot closer to winning than even what John thinks they are.
Yeah.
But after talking to John yesterday, it had been a while since I got to talk to him much. I think the future of Wood Brothers is in pretty good hands.
Absolutely. All right, we're running kind of long, and we still want to get to the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. interview. We want to talk to Stan Cisar, so let's go ahead and play the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. It's about another 5.5 to 7 minutes, just about 6 minutes long. So we sat down and started talking with Ricky and kind of had us recap the week of craziness that has been for him.
Thank you. It's been
a
cool week, and felt really good, being able to enjoy everything that comes along with the win. You're busy, got a lot of stuff to do, but the adrenaline and of winning a cup race kind of propels you through the week.
Easy to say. That's been a long time coming. You guys have struggled at times, been probably frustrated to the point where, I don't know, maybe Rogaine has helped you out because you pulled your hair out sometimes, but that's got to be really rewarding to finally get that win.
Yeah, it does. Everybody at our shop has worked so hard. The times that you're really fast and you run up front, those are the easy times. Things are really hard when you have to, look to dig up from the bottom. And, people think when you're out winning races and just running up front that you're doing a lot of hard work. Well, you are, but not near as hard as when you're trying to get up from the bottom. So, we worked really hard, and that win was really rewarding.
And you guys have, it's been noted and struggled the last couple of years, but this year, what's been the big difference? Because you've been up front the entire race. A lot of the times you've had some really good finishes, and then it was able to be all put together for Talladega.
Yeah, we changed a lot this offseason that, really was able to put us in better position to start this year. And we feel like we've seen the rewards of that so far. And, even without that win, we were feeling really confident of the way our program's been going and, how we've been able to perform on a lot of different tracks, short tracks, mile and a halves. I feel like the mile and a halves or what need to get better. We need to be able to, continue our progress and make our cars better on the mile and a halves. But the short tracks are feeling good right now. The super speedways, I know we got good race cars. We proved that last week. So still areas to get better in, but it definitely takes a lot of weight off your shoulders knowing that you're good for the playoffs. You get to go to these racetracks and really focus on what's going to make you better when you get to the playoffs.
Coming from the sprint car world and doing quite a bit of sprint car racing on the dirt track level, is the aero package coming closer to you, or are you guys getting closer to the aero package?
Both. I like, I love sliding around. I think, the lower downforce is definitely, more in my wheelhouse. Right now, the older racetracks where you're definitely wearing out the tires and less downforce, that's what's really in our wheelhouse right now. I feel like the smoother, faster tracks is something we got to get better at, and that's just catching our cars up. But right now, man, the old worn out stuff is feeling really good.
And we were real excited, and I know I was personally. I know Dan was, because we talked about it right afterwards. But we thought it was really cool with your dedication for parking it in Victory Lane. That was so cool. Tell us about your relationship.
Yeah, me and Brian, man, we had so many great, things that we wanted to do together. We were going to set up an outlaw team for him to race, and Joey Saldana ended up running it. Joey was Brian's favorite driver, so it all worked out, the best it could after Brian had passed away. But, I keep in close contact with his whole family, and, just being able to, we talked about me, winning a race and being able to park it in Victory Lane like Brian always said. It felt really good.
Take me through that last lap of Talladega, because I don't remember much of it. I was jumping up and down screaming, "Go, Ricky, go!"
Yeah, I actually had to rewatch it a few times to figure out what happened. Somebody asked me in Victory Lane, like, how it happened, and the laps kind of ran together, and what lanes I went in, and for me it was Kyle got a really good restart. I didn't want to jump the restart and get penalized, so I was a little cautious. And, then I was able to get a good push from Jimmy that cleared me of that double file row. So then it was just Kyle and I. And when I saw the 5 coming up the outside, my spotter was telling me, to get in front of him. And when we did that, he gave me a good push down the back straightaway. And I tried to, pull to the inside of the 18, and I thought I could clear him in 3 and 4 and slide up in front of him and then block the rest of the way. But I didn't clear him. I kind of thought we lost the race right there. I side drafted him all the way down the straightaway, just trying to slow him up as much as I could, and it brought the next row back to us. And the 48 was able to push me clear of the 18, and then, on the back straightaway, when I look in my mirror and I see the one car shoving the middle and slowing them down, I knew that we had a good shot.
At like the weekly level and at the cup level, if you could change one thing about racing, if you were the god of racing, what would the one thing you would change at each particular level be?
Probably continue. Well, so I grew up racing wing cars, and I just feel like they're getting too fast. I feel like we need to slow them down a little bit, and maybe, almost like our cup cars, taking downforce away has definitely felt improve the racing. Wing cars, they still have great races, but there's times that I feel like, watching some older races, if you could take some downforce away, we could maybe have some better races. But I don't know that for sure. It's been a long time since I've ran sprint cars week in and week out. Just an observation of something that I've been watching, and something that I've been able to do here that I feel like has helped.
And what about on the cup level? Would you continue to take more downforce away from the cars?
100%. And quit repaving racetracks. So, I understand, like, sometimes you have to repave them when they are just so far falling apart that you can't, race on them. But for me, it's, less downforce and older racetracks.
I think that's the most common theme. Most drivers can't agree on many things together, but they all agree less downforce is better.
Well, especially all of these younger drivers. I mean, we first heard it from Carl Edwards a couple of years ago. Take the spoilers off, take the splitters off. Let's just go race the car.
Yeah. Interesting that he said one of his things he would change would be to slow down the winged sprint cars just a little bit. Slower doesn't necessarily mean worse racing. It sometimes means safer and more reaction time, and it can draw the field back together. I thought that was interesting. That was one of his points.
Well, definitely safer. I mean, obviously speed creates more danger, and, that's part of the one of the things that a lot of people go to the races to see is the speed, to see how these guys react in dangerous situations. But when you're in the sport, you don't like to see anybody get hurt ever.
Right.
You like to see them walk away from a bad crash, and a lot of people find the crash is entertaining, but somebody's got to pay for that crash.
Right.
You know,
it's an expensive thing to entertain you with.
Exactly.
Ricky's day, he has struggled at the 1.5 miles. I think a top 10 finish would have been great for him. He finished just outside of it. His teammate did finish top 10, so Trevor Bain 10th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 11th. Good run for those two at the 1.5 miles. So they've got to continue to work on that program. Again, still, on our schedule, 1.5 miles dominate the schedule, so you've got to be good at the 1.5 miles if you expect to be standing on victory lane at Homestead.
But, I mean, this is 2017 and 2016. That was 24th and 25th. The Roush program's come a long way.
Let's take a break. We'll come back to number 3, and we will sit down with Stan Cisar and talk about results from I-80 and Eagle Raceway. But we'll be back here on the front stretch.
The NHRA Mellow Yellow Drag Racing Series is headed back to Topeka. Feel the power that pummels the senses with 10,000 horsepower at speeds over 330 miles per hour. Every ticket's a pit pass at the Menards NHRA Heartland Nationals, presented by Minties, May 19th through 21st at Heartland Park, Topeka. Kids 12 and under are free in general admission. Get tickets early and save at NHRA.com/tickets or call 800-884-NHRA. Ignite your senses.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Turn number 3 brought to you by Menards NHRA Heartland Nationals, presented by Minties at Heartland Park, Topeka, May 19th, 20th, and 21st. If you're keeping track of the calendar, that is next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Get your tickets today by calling 1-800-884-NHRA or going to heartlandpark.com. The funny part of that was that I have struggled with that, the entire sponsorship, and I was joking off air. I said I got one last chance to get it right. And what do I screw up? The turn 3 words.
So who's this sponsored by?
NHRA. Menards Heartland NHRA Nationals, presented by Minties at Heartland Park, Topeka, this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 1-800-884-NHRA or heartlandpark.com.
Don't we got a couple tickets for that?
We do, and we're going to give those away in turn 4 thanks to the guy who's joining us on the air right now, Stan Cisar, who used to be a drag racer. Now he's a circle track racer and owns a circle track car and is out at Eagle Raceway and I-80 Speedway. Stan, how you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing great. You're confusing me with Tom Grasso. Tom used to be the drag racer. I've been oval track all the way.
Well,
did you have a road course car then? I thought you had one.
Yeah, we did do some road racing. My son raced in the SCCA Trans Am Series for a number of years, and now I got involved in sprint car racing, and I'm going to be having some fun here sometime soon, I think.
when you get that engine from being quit being such a monster, you'll have a lot of fun, right?
Let's hope so.
Let's kick off Friday night at I-80 Speedway. It was a driver appreciation night, and I was looking at pictures on Facebook. Looks like you had a packed house.
I think they had about 98% of the seats had butts in them last Friday night, and there were probably another maybe 1,000, 1,500 people standing down in front of the grandstand. It was a great night of racing, somewhat of a marathon. Very quickly, I know you're running a little bit behind. You had too many caution flag laps early on in the going here, but kicking things off, Sport Compact feature. It didn't exactly look like it was going to end this way. Justin Thompson and Evan Hrabeck having a pretty good race for the lead, and they crash out in turn number 3, and that hands the win to Dan Markham in car number 6. Moving up to the hobby stock division, what looked like it was going to be a duel between Luke Ramsey and Jason Cole once again. Jason had some problems, lost a wheel, and that handed the win to Luke Ramsey again in that car number 17. Probably arguably the best race of the night moving into the stock car division. You had 5-6 cars under a blanket the whole race, and Scott Carlson, Kyle Dumpert, Eric Rempel, Shane Stutzman, but the win going to your defending champion, Nick Woodard, in car number 31. And that was, like I said, probably one of the better races of the night.
Good to see him back in front. He struggled the first couple of points-paying races, and like you said, he was the defending track champion.
Yeah, and another good race, though, probably running a close second, was the Sport Mod A main event. It looked like Sean Harker had that one in hand, and I believe in the last corner of the last lap, Mark Lighting snuck by for the win. So good race between those two guys. A little controversy in the Bragging Rights Grand National late models. So we had twin features last night. Jacob Brown won the first feature. In that second feature, it looked like he was going to cruise to the win, and Jake Bridge ran him down. They made contact in turn 4, coming down to the checkered flag, and Brown's car went into a spin, and Jake Bridge cruised to the win. And there was quite a bit of controversy, but I think as of this riding, I still think that Jake Brown was the victor in that one. In the modified division, this guy's been kind of on a roll lately. He picked up a win last Saturday night at Eagle Raceway, came to I-80 Speedway on Friday night, picked up the win. That would be Shane Hyatt, the hitman, car number 21H. And a pretty good race, but Shane probably had the field covered by a pretty good margin. And then probably the fastest and best race of the evening, the super late models were back in the house. We had a great field of cars. I want to say 26, 27 cars in the house. And it turned out to be a duel down to the end between Corey Zeitner and Bill Layton Jr. The gap stayed pretty constant, but Bill did make up a lot of ground to run him down before that final caution flag. So Corey Zeitner took the win over Bill Layton Jr. Tad Pospisil close third in that 04 machine. And that concluded the activity down at I-80 Speedway. They got a lot of more racing coming up, some big events coming up in the near future. Weekly racing series going on again next Friday night, but then the following week we got the Lucas Oil National Late Model Tour coming in for the Go 50, and then we take Friday night off, and then we come back on Sunday night for the Charlie Clark Memorial, the 9th annual race honoring Charlie Clark, great driver, engine builder, car builder from the Le Mars, Iowa area. And that's one that everybody puts on their calendars. They have 2 20-lap segments. See, we had segments before NASCAR did, actually. You know, they probably copied that from us. They have a mandatory pit stop, and it's right on the front stretch. Everybody gets to see the work being done on the cars, and everybody has to get done and back across the pit area line. You know, when we blow the air horn and get back and run the final segment of that deal. Also, the Sprint Series of Nebraska Race Saver Sprints will be in the house that night. Their event got rained out. They've been added to the schedule for that one. So it should be a good weekend of racing over Memorial Day at I-80 Speedway.
That's absolutely my favorite race. And I want to make sure to say congratulations to Kane Malberg for winning the Sport Compact Division at Crawford County Speedway on Friday. And I want to point that out because that was the inaugural Deb Brosh Memorial race. Deb passed away during the off-season. She drove a Sport Compact down at Denison for the last couple of years, and a sudden passing of Deb in the off-season. And they created the 600 to win Deb Brosh Memorial at Crawford County, and that was again this Friday. So congratulations to Kane on that. Another big race in the area, we'll get to Eagle here in just a second, but I want to make sure and point out the $50,000 to win Farley, Iowa super modified race weekend featuring modifieds and B modifieds. Kyle Strickler ends up getting the win. Stan, my information is sketchy on this, but did you get any information on some of the race reports of how that race went?
I really didn't. The high side tickler took home the big money over there. I believe Hunter Marriott, who races in this area quite often, I think came home in the second spot. We had a couple guys that made the show. I know Justin Zeiter was qualified good. Johnny Sadoff, Jeremy Payne was running one of Johnny's backup cars. I think Jordan Grabowski and Dylan Smith both over there in the area. But I didn't get the complete results on that one yet. But congrats to Kyle Strickler on the win.
So, yeah, Strickler and Marriott 1, 2, then Johnny Scott 3rd, Chris Simpson 4th, Jordan Grabowski with the top 5. Jeremy Payne is 6th, Justin Zeitner 7th, Richie Gustin 8th, Ricky Thornton Jr., who I believe started on the pole, ended up finishing 9th. And the crazy 99 Jesse Sobbing top 10 finish. Abelson finished 12th, Sadoff 13th, Terry Phillips 15th, and I don't see Smith in the top 30, so I don't know what happened to him.
I'd say our area was pretty well represented against the top IMCA modifieds in the country.
Absolutely, and let's while we've got a few minutes left in this turn, let's make sure and turn our attention to the action last night for Hot Mama's Night at Eagle Raceway.
Oh, it was a great night for racing. We had a great crowd, and very quickly I'll slip through this. Another controversial finish. Looked like Larry Cronin was going to breeze to an easy victory in the Sport Compact division. Sean Hine had some mechanical problems with his car. He was rolling slowly down the front stretch. He thought the last car by had him cleared. He started to work his way down in the infield. Unfortunately, Larry Cronin closing at a high rate of speed, and he clipped Cronin. Lost the wheel on Cronin's car and careened into the turn one guardrail down there and flipped down the banking. Fortunately, Larry was okay, but that handed the win to Spencer Pavey the third, and Cole Creco coming home in the second spot. Kyle Owen, Tommy Etherton, and Tim Horsham rounding out your top 5. Hobby Stock A feature, another deal. Your first 2 cars in points, Jeff Ware and Roy Armstrong, both going out with mechanical problems. Jeff Ware losing a wheel, some engine problems for Roy Armstrong, but that did not overshadow a great win by Dave Carter, car number 2C. Carter actually was leading both of those guys when they fell out. Jeff Watts comes home in the second spot in the 66. Chad Fegley, Cody Liefeld, and the 13T of Tyler Jackson. Whoa, Nelly, bringing home a 5th place finish in car number 13. IMCA Sport Modifieds, a great feature race. It looked like Sean Harker was going to take the win, but Trent Roth got up on that high side and kept banging that cushion all the way around Eagle Raceway, and he overhauled Harker with 2 laps to go, picked up a very popular win. Trent Roth taking the win. Harker was second. The Beaver Lake Bandit, Joe Fayen, comes home third. Dion Kovar fourth, and Roger Schluka, top 5 finisher. In the A modified division, you talk about a guy that's on fire right now, picking up his 3rd win in a row from Rising City. The hitman Shane Hyatt comes back with another win. Thought we were going to have a Roth brothers celebration on the front stretch, but Anthony Roth got to second, but couldn't quite overhaul the hitman. Josh Blummer up from Marysville, Kansas, comes home 3rd. Chevy Hayden was 4th, and Chad Anderson rounding out the top 5. That brings us up to the IMCA Race Saver A main event. Had another great field of cars in the house, 34 sprint cars, going on at Eagle Raceway, 4 big heats. And in that A feature, guy that was close last week, Trevor Grossenbacher, celebrated Mother's Day for his mom, his son's birthday, his wife's birthday's coming up, and he picked up the win in car number 35. Adam Gullion with a great run in car number 91, overhauled a couple guys to take the second spot. Brian King, who picked up his first ever win last week, came home in the 3rd position. Jason Martin was 4th. Joey Danley rounded out the top 5. I got to give a call to Mike Boston. Boston ended up 7th. He was up there dueling it out with Grossenbacher for quite a number of laps, probably better than half the race, and I think he just lost the setup on that car and kind of slipped backwards toward the end. But all in all, great night of racing at Eagle Raceway. We've got our big driver appreciation, handed out tickets to all the drivers, so it's going to be a free night. You're hearing the spots on the show, the advertising that race. I think it's the Explodiganza Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be on Saturday night. Free tickets available. See your favorite Eagle Raceway driver because they've got plenty of them to hand out.
And Stan, I need your help a little bit. Can you help us give away these NHRA tickets in turn number 4?
Well, you're talking about drag racing trivia question, and some guys that I know well. There were 2 Omaha-based top fuel dragster teams that raced for a number of years on the national tour with the NHRA and ran all the national events, all over the country. 2 Omaha-based top fuel dragster teams. If you could name one of those 2 teams, and both of those teams made it all the way to the semifinals on one occasion with the NHRA, which is really pretty good for the local guys here in Omaha. Give a call to those guys racing at drag racing's top level, the top fuel dragster class.
Hey, Stan, there's actually a 3rd team, and that driver is in the Nebraska Motorsports Hall of Fame that you don't have listed on those answers there.
Well, I believe they didn't really race back in when it was the the whole circuit deal. He did race a Top Fuel dragster, and I know who you're talking about, and you know who. So if somebody mentions him, you've already got the answer. But he drag racing was a little bit more loosely organized back then
Correct.
than it is now. And these guys, both the teams that I mentioned, they actually raced the circuit, traveled to quite a number of events. Although a very deserving individual, and that was back in the days of the front engine drag.
Correct, and he was also the world record holder for a period of time
in the junior fuel class. That's right. Those were fuel injected small block Chevrolets, and he had quite a number of big wins in that car. Then they put the Hemi in the car, moved up to Top Fuel ranks. Did a great job. He is in the Hall of Fame, and these other guys, I think one of them's maybe got a shot. I don't know for sure about the other one, but some great guys, and we'll see if maybe some local race fan that does follow the drag racing series remembers those Omaha guys that did race in the Top Fuel class.
402-573-0590. First person to call up with the answer to that question will win themselves a 5-pack of tickets. I know it's kind of a weird number to give away, but what's what we do. We do things a little bit weird. We're just a little off center. We would not pass laser inspection for NASCAR.
Well, you know, when you're the fifth wheel, sometimes you're really glad to get that fifth ticket. Otherwise, you'd be sitting home watching it on TV.
It's four tickets and a designated driver is what it is.
We're gonna come back in turn number 4. We're gonna wrap things up. Stan, thanks so much for your time, bud.
Hey, no problem, man. See you later. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dan.
We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Hey, race fans, after 50 years of being America's home track, Eagle Raceway is firing things up for the 2017 racing season. Bring the family out this Saturday for the Memorial Day Explodaganza and Driver Appreciation Night presented by Gray Clips. Contact your favorite Eagle Raceway driver for free tickets. All the IMCA action kicks off with gates opening at 5:30 and the green flag drops at 6:30. For more information, check out EagleRaceway.com. Eagle Raceway, just east of Lincoln on Highway 34 in Eagle, Nebraska.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
The NHRA Mellow Yellow Drag Racing Series is headed back to Topeka. Feel the power that pummels the senses with 10,000 horsepower at speeds over 330 miles per hour. Every ticket's a pit pass at the Menards NHRA Heartland Nationals, presented by Minties, May 19th through 21st at Heartland Park, Topeka. Kids 12 and under are free in general admission. Get tickets early and save at NHRA.com/tickets or call 800-884-NHRA. Ignite.